All right, everyone, the whole plays. We are back for another part two of going over part three. I don't know, of all the Pokemon that are coming back for the DLC Teal Mask 1. We are going over their competitive usage in terms of Showdown, as well as draft style format, which I am a co-owner of the PVO. Make sure they check it out. We are currently going through playoffs as well as championships, probably about now. Very interesting stuff, so make sure you check out for that. But yeah, we're going to continue where we left off. If you haven't checked out the other parts, feel free to. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Make sure you leave a like on this video. Am I right? Where are the likes at? Alright, Mightyana's back. Did anyone ask if Mightyana was coming back? I don't think so, but Moxie, Sucker Punch, probably decent. I mean, Terra Dark is probably pretty good, at least in lower tiers. In draft style format, not it at all. But yeah, Moxie, Terra Dark is pretty powerful. Taunts, Howl, obviously Howl's its only increasing attack option, which is pretty bad. It also has access to Trailblaze though to increase its speed, but the stats for this thing are very, very sad. So I don't think Mightyana is going to be the most dominant threat in terms of draft or showdown, but it is a little bit interesting in terms of lower tiers. It could be pretty strong. Other coverage options: Crunch, Fire Fang, Ice Fang, and Psychic Fangs. It obviously gets access to all the Fangs, but I think except for Thunder Fang, which is kind of weird. But Mightyana being the underdog beast of PU for sure. But it's a cool Pokemon. Like, I always liked Mightyana, but unfortunately it is neither that strong for this season. They should give it an evolution. I mean, they gave Zigzagoon or Linoon an evolution. So Ludicolo is back. Swift Swim, Monster, of course. Energy Ball, Giga Drain, Ice Beam, Surf are just some options that I was looking at, but it can run some like weird, especially defensive sets. Coverage options: Focus Blast, Knockoff, Leech Seed, and Synthesis. I mean, in the rain, this thing, even with the Life Orb, is never enough to be incredibly strong. The coverage is pretty good. Water, Grass plus Ice is really good coverage. But you need Chip on everything, so it's hard to initially just like sweep teams with it, and it's hard for it to be a really potent Swift Swim user because it does not hit hard enough. So that is basically Ludicolo. I think in terms of draft, it's definitely a little bit weaker for the fact that it does. I mean, it has good coverage and it's good in the rain. But besides that, it's looking definitely lower tiers for Showdown for sure. Okay, so Shiftry is low-key exciting though. I cooked up for Shiftry right here though. Shiftry, Pickpocket. So it also get access to a new ability. We'll talk about that. Big Nugget, Pickpocket. So if we have no move, we steal the user item. But Fling with Big Nugget was super buffed. So Fling Shiftry, actually, I think it's base 150? I believe, because I think people are running Sneasler Fling. I saw this. No, is it 150 or is 120? Y'all will have to fact check me on that. But Fling Big Nugget is actually really dope for Shiftry because it makes it for a super strong stab dark type move, as well as you can pickpocket other people's items. Other coverage options: Knockoff, Sucker Punch, and Swords Dance really good, and you could also make it Terra Dark. Speed is okay. Attack is pretty good. I mean, the stats are just not great. You can also still run it as a Chlorophyll sweeper, but it also gains access to the Wind Rider ability. I could not tell you off the top of my head, besides for like Hurricane, what other moves this block. I know it blocks Heat Wave, so it might be decent for like VGC maybe. But yeah, in terms of draft, it's very niche. It's very niche, but other moves: Leaf Blade, Leaf Storm, Nasty Plot, so it can be a Nasty Plot setter besides just a Swords Dance setter, so it can be a mixed set as well. Does get access to a Rock Slide to hit those flying and fire types. Also gets access to Defog. Like, what the hell? Shiftry does have Defog. I think I had it before, but yeah, it can be a nice defogger. Pretty decently fast to get taunts off the rip to prevent hazards on your side of the field, as well as setups. And then it also gets a hazard in itself and Toxic Spike, as well as for some reason it got Will-O-Wisp. I don't know if that's new or not, but that's incredibly shocking. But I think Shiftry will have more usage than it has had in the past, which is very exciting because Shiftry, I think this Shiftry Fling Big Nugget set is actually going to pop off. But that's just a theory, and you know, Shiftry has always been PU, I think, PU or NU. So maybe it might rise above and become RU this generation. Who knows? Moving forward, Probopass. Probopass is back. I mean, really good stats. I mean, good defense, special defense. Everything else is just sad though. But looking at the sets that I was looking at, I mean, Magnet-Pull is really cool to bring out, you know, steel types, and then you have Earth Power to hit them. But Body Press is very strong with this high defense stat. Flash Cannon has another coverage option, and it can also set up Stealth Rocks. It also gets access to Volt Switch, so an electric type pivot move, Thunder Wave to cripple opponents, and Thunderbolt to hit flying types, and I guess water types. You can also taunt, although you're extremely slow, so taunt is probably not that great. But can be good, I guess, if you're taunting like Corviknights that you're trying to roost. So if you have something that's trapped in and is trying to, you know, stall you, basically, you can't taunt it. Other options: Power Gem, Iron Defense, Steel Beam, and Dazzling Gleam are just some like moves I was looking at. Iron Defense, Body Press, probably really good, low-key. You are weak to Earth for sure, as well as potentially Sturdy could be nice just because it is like a Focus Sash, but you have such good defenses, you're almost never dying to one hit. So yeah, this is pretty much Probopass. Definitely a lower tier mon for sure, but it looks like it might get some really good usage out of Body Press, potentially Iron Defense. I can see it sweeping teams for sure. Look at this guy's little mustache. This is so cool. He's such a cool Pokemon too. I love his little, like, he's got like the little compass little things too. So cool. Okay, here we're really walking through the trash. It's really sad. Volbeat actually has Tail Glow, which you would think would be interesting, but with this special attack stat, it's actually abysmal. But other moves: Encore, Ruse, U-Turn, and Bug Buzz. I seriously don't know what this thing is ever supposed to do. It does get Seismic Toss, but like this is the faster one. It's the faster one between the two, I think. Oh no, they're same speed. So wait, they're literally the same thing. So it's just Volbeat and Illumise basically do the same thing. So just Encore, Roost, U-Turn, Bug Buzz. But instead of Bug Buzz, you probably run Seismic Toss because that's what I had on the other one. This one does get Tail Glow, but it's basically useless. Other options: Thunder Wave, Taunt, Seismic Toss, Chilling Water. I don't know. Volbeat's just very sad. Can we agree? It does have Prankster, which is kind of cool. But it's already decently fast, so you probably don't even need Prankster most of the time, and then the other abilities are just terrible. Illumise, though, does have Tinted Lens, but it doesn't get access to Tail Glow, which is really sad. So Tinted Lens or Prankster doesn't really matter. Bug Buzz, U-Turn, Wish, Trick. So this one does have access to Wish Baton Pass, which might be nice, but this is definitely looking like one of those lower tier warriors, unfortunately. Stats are like okay. I don't even know what this thing really wants to do. Definitely a PU mon for sure. And in terms of draft, not much viability for sure. Next up is Crawdon. Crawdon with adaptability looking huge. Good coverage options: Close Combat, Aqua Jet, Crunch, and Dragon Dance, obviously. Really, really powerful. You basically need +2 to really get some speed going, but you probably can't outspeed some things. Other coverage options: Knock Off, Crab Hammer, Rock Slide, Swords Dance. In case you don't want to run Dragon Dance, you can run Swords Dance, Aqua Jet, and still have a lot of sweeping potential. Other options: Taunt, X Scissor, Fling. As I said before, Fling, Gold Nugget. I'm just gonna bring Fling Gold Nugget on base, or Big Nugget on every single dark type and just call it a play. I assume it's really powerful. I almost want to say it's 120 base power, but Brick Break is another option. I could definitely see Crawdon being UU, potentially RU. It was never bad in the past, and especially with adaptability, it's doing a lot more damage. I would say the worst thing about it is the way Terra Boost works is if you Terra Water and you already have adaptability already sets your thing from 2 to, or 1.5 to 2, but when you Terra the same thing, I'm pretty sure it only brings it from 2 to 2.25. So it's only like a fourth of a boost, and it's really sad compared to like normal Terra types will bring your stab from like 1.5 to 2. So it's really not as strong as you think, Terraing it from water or dark. Potentially it could be better to be like Terra Terra Fighting for close combat, or Terra Fairy just to allow you to Dragon Dance up more. Next up is Melodic Marvel Scale. Obviously this thing is annoying with a Flame Orb. Dragon Tail, Coil, Recover, Scald is the sets that I was looking at. Obviously this thing gets Scald now, which is really powerful because it is like, you know, it's a defensive mon for sure. I don't think you ever really run it, especially offensively, but it does have access to competitive if you really do want to do that. But yeah, Dragon Tail Cool, Recover Scald is really, really powerful. It doesn't get toxic anymore. It does get access to screens, but besides that, it's basically like the main set that I see it running. Dragon Tail Cool, Recover, and Scald. Coil can be really powerful actually, because you have such high special defense that once you get up a couple coils, you're probably walling most things. But again, you are struggling with the amount of PP that you have, because this generation is a lot more offensive because there's less PP for healing moves. So definitely seeing Milotic being good, but not great. Probably RU, just because of this recover thing. It is very good, you know. It's very good as a wall, but I don't see it being that powerful. As well as for Crawdaunt, I think I already said UU, right? But Dusclops is back, which is pretty cool with an Eviolite. It's really good defensively, obviously. I don't know if it's OU, it's probably UU or RU. But there are a lot of mons with knockoff now, so it's probably not as good as I would think. But main moves, Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, Nightshade, and Taunt. Taunt is like, you know, still bad, but you know, you can run some other moves with it, but these are the main ones that you want to look out for. Dusknoir is back. Pretty cool. Very good defense, obviously same as Dusclops, but also has a decent attack stat as well. Moves I was looking at: Dusty Bond, Poltergeist now. Also, Dusclops gets Poltergeist, so Poltergeist is actually a really hard-hitting move for Dusclops, which it definitely needed. Other coverage options: Earthquake, Shadow Sneak. Gets access to the punches: Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch. As well as does get Pain Split, similar to Dusclops, Rock Slide as well. And then it does have Trick Room, and Will-O-Wisp, which can be really good because Trick Room, setting up a Trick Room, basically increasing your speed, or switching the speed, shifting the speed to slower mons being faster, is really good for Dusclops because it wants to do as much damage as possible while also being very defensive. Pause for. All right, sorry, we're back. Quite a few, couple hours later, but Chimecho is back. Chimecho does have Levitate, decent ability. Calm Mind, Knock Off, Healing Wish, Psychic are some options that I was looking at. But of course, Chimecho has the major problem that a lot of these Pokemon have of not having great stats. Of course, this could be a PU-NU Menace, but unfortunately it's not going to be higher tiered, and it's probably not that great for draft. But it does get Recover, Thunder Wave, and can be a Wish Baton Passer for draft, which can be pretty powerful. But besides that, I do not see a lot of usage coming out of Chimecho, just because of how frail, at least defensively. Defensively, it's not terrible, but the typing Pure Psychic is not fantastic. But it could be decent at best, but definitely not a game breaker for sure. Okay, so moving forward, looking at some other moves: Yawn, Trick Room, Stored Power I also thought would be cool with Calm Mind, and of course Shadow Ball, other coverage options. Next we have Conkeldurr. This one I'm actually super pumped for. Conkeldurr is back, and this thing was a menace back in the day, so I'm really happy to see this thing back. Really good abilities: Guts, Sheer Force, and Iron Fist. You can literally make use of like basically all these. Good coverage options: Bulk Up, Close Combat, Defog now. I think it had Defog before, but this is just such a crazy move that it gets Defog. I mean, this is just going to be a fantastic Defogger. Drain Punch also has coverage option. Other coverage options: Earthquake, obviously getting the punches, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Knock Off. Other moves: Mach Punch works well with Iron Fist, Poison Jab, Stone Edge, Thunder Punch, as said before. And then Taunt, and of course I had to bring up Fling again. But Taunt is really good for lead scenarios too. It's a little bit niche, but it can definitely put in the work. And Terra Blast actually could make this better. I don't think Fighting is a terrible type to be, but obviously having Terra Water, Terra Fairy can make you a lot bulkier and make you live longer. So that is basically Conkeldurr. I'm very excited for Conkeldurr. Most likely going to be UU, or potentially higher for OU. I don't know exactly what is missing in OU that Conkeldurr could like directly 1v1, and this mon will be really good for draft because it can do so many things, and it's really like it can be really bulky with these stats. So all right, moving on, we have next Leavanny. Leavanny is a little bit sad, but it does have access to Chlorophyll, which works well with it being a Sun setter or Sun user. It does have good coverage options: Knock Off, Leaf Blade, Lunge, and Poison Jab, as well as other coverage options: Shadow Claw and Swords Dance to run boosted in the sun. Does get access to Sticky Web. Sticky Web can be really good for draft formats. In terms of Showdown usage, it's not that prevalent. Probably RU at most, definitely lower than that. But Synthesis, also good coverage options. Again, Terra Blast could make this Leavanny a lot stronger because Bug Grass is very weak defensively. But if you Terra type into something else, obviously that gives you more chances to set up in the sun. And I think Terra Fire would benefit this one a little bit more. Just because specifically Bug Grass does not do well into Steel. So Terra Fire also boosted in the sun would do a lot of damage. Other options, Trailblaze also works because its speed is 92. It's just shy of breaking 100, so Trailblaze could be really nice. Also can run an X-Scissor, as well as also thinking Loaded Dice Bullet Seed could pack a punch. Other good moves, Fell Stinger, obviously really good for picking up those low health KOs, and then you just boost your attack by 3, and then Leavanny becomes actually a threat. Also Baton Pass as a way for switching out because it does not get U-turn. And then another coverage option, and Low Kick is pretty decent for Leavanny. Moving forward, we have Swanna. Only good, really hidden ability is Hydration, maybe Big Pecs, but yeah, it's not great. Defog, Flip Turn is actually really good for Swanna. Obviously, this is pretty decent Defogger. It's not insane, the stats are pretty bad, but it does get access to Defog. Flip Turn can be really good for Switch Initiative. Hurricane, Ice Beam are really good coverage. Also gets access to Knockoff, Roost Surf, and Terra Blasting. Your type could be pretty important. This is definitely going to be like an NU PU tier. But in terms of draft, also very low. But it could be useful in terms of just having a Defogger. You just run heavy duty boots on this. Can be pretty decent at best. But it is not going to be a great Pokemon for sure. Bring back Ducklet. I want Eevee-like Ducklet to put in the work. Next up is Chandelure. Chandelure. I'm really excited for this thing to be back. Flash Fire. Flame Body is kind of a bad ability, but Flash Fire and Infiltrator are the main moves that you're running. Good coverage. Will-O-Wisp, Trick Room, Trick, Trailblaze were some options I was looking at. Trailblaze is actually really nice because for some matchups you don't like grass coverage is good, but also you need the +1 speed to start outspeeding things because it's only 80 base speed. That's like the main problem with Chandelure, is that it does not outspeed as many things as it should. So Trailblaze can actually be really nice to get that +1 speed boost, and then you start sweeping teams because the special attack is already so high. Other coverage options: Taunt, Shadow Ball, Psychic, Pain Splint. Obviously, Overheat, really good Fire Stab, especially with the super high special attack stat. You can just like Overheat White Herb and then spam Overheat twice is really powerful for wall breaking. Hex is also really good for those scenarios where you can run like Will-O-Wisp Hex, Flamethrower, and then of course Energy Ball is another coverage option for grass type moves. Dark Pulse, Calm Mind, and Memento are the final options that I was deciding for. For draft, this thing is probably pretty good as a really strong wall breaker. You can even run heavy duty boots now, which makes Chandelure being less scary for Stealth Rocks and stuff like that. In terms of draft or Showdown usage, it always has been in like the UU tier. I don't think it will really jump up to OU because it's not fast enough, but it could probably see a little bit of usage in OU. Definitely UU for sure. Moving forward, Mienshao. This mon is really exciting. Best abilities: Inner Focus you could use for draft style format, being immune to Intimidate. Regenerator also being really good. You could run Life Orb, as well as this thing does have access to U-turn, so it makes for a really good Regenerator mon that does a lot of damage, and then Reckless to boost high jump kick power. But looking at the coverage, as well as the stats, really fast with 105 speed. Decent special attack too, so you could run like an off like special move and still do good damage, and of course the attack stat is extremely high. But Bulk Up, Close Combat, Drain Punch, Fake Out were just some coverage options I was looking at. Obviously High Jump Kick, Reckless does a lot of damage. It does get Ice Spinner now, which is really good for Lando T. This thing has always been, I think, UU, but it could potentially see a lot of play in OU. But yeah, we'll have to see for sure. But Ice Spinner is really good to take on Lando T, so it could end up being an OU. Also, it gets access to Knockoff, Poison Jab, Stone Edge, Swords Dance, also really powerful for this thing because its attack stat is already huge and it's pretty decently fast. Taunt, also good for lead matchups, and U-turn obviously good for Regenerator. Other options, speed is 105, but it could also use a speed boost, which is why Trailblaze is here. Again, Fling, Big Nugget, I'll always call that worthy of being on a set. Grass Knot, as I talked about before, decent special attack, so you could actually use it. And then you could potentially run some acrobatic sets if you have an item that you can get rid of, and that would be really good coverage for Mienshao as well. Overall, I do think this thing is pretty powerful for draft as well. And I don't think it's like, you know, red tier, definitely like around the orangish tier, like secondary tier. But yeah, really powerful mon for sure. So moving forward, Mana Buzz is back. This thing is a bulky beast, great defogger. Defog, Brave Bird, Foul Play, and Iron Defense are some options that I was looking at. Iron Defense obviously works well because you can still Roost. So this thing does get Knockoff, Roost, Taunt, and Toxic. Toxic is really huge because Mana Buzz loves to wither things down with Toxic, Roost, knock off their leftovers as well. Potentially taunt away the recovery moves too. Best ability is most likely Overcoat, so you take less damage, or you can't get Spored, can't get Sandstormed. Big Pex is basically useless. Weak Armor is also really not great because you want to be defensive, but potentially, no, I don't even think you ever run it because your attack stat is so low. Yeah, I don't think you ever run it. It also gets access to U-Turn and War 1, which are really good other coverage options. I could see Mana Buzz being pretty powerful and OU as like a special wall dealing with Dragapult, but honestly it still dies to a lot of Iron Valiant. I know it gets 2-hit KOs, but it might, due to Stealth Rock Chip, it might be not OU worthy. It probably is closer to UU. Definitely I'm thinking UU for sure, but because it's just always naturally has been in UU like RU tiers, so I definitely could see it like that. And in terms of draft, it's definitely a really good mon. I wouldn't say that's red tier or like super high tier or anything, but it's definitely really good as a wall, as a good rooster and defogger. So yeah, I really love Mana Buzz for draft. Next up, Trevenant. I love me some Trevenant. Okay, so harvest sets are actually a lot more deadly than people think. I've seen some Tropius sets as well as like Arboliva loves to run like harvest shenanigans, like sub, Leech Seed, all sorts of stuff. Having Trevenant here basically gives you like a defensive, more defensive mon. Great typing for it too, to basically utilize harvest more. Natural Cure and Frisk can also be useful for like draft style formats, but yeah, having harvest is huge for this mon. Coverage options I was looking at: Destiny Bomb, Drain Punch, Earthquake, and Horn Leech, but obviously you can run like this Leech Seed sub thing that I was talking about before. Also gets access to Knockoff now. Nightshade and Poison Jab are some other coverage options that I was looking at, but I do really like Trevenant. It does get access to Poltergeist now. With that 110 base attack, it's actually hits pretty hard. Other coverage options: Rock Slide, Shadow Claw, Sucker Punch. Also Toxic is huge for Trevenant. Also gets Will-O-Wisp, and Trick Room can be pretty powerful, and of course you can run an even higher base stab Wood Hammer to do lots and lots of damage with Trevenant. I really like Trevenant. I think it is a little bit reliant on harvest strats, but I do like it. Most likely RU and U could rise to UU if it sees enough usage. But yeah, for draft 2, I really like this thing. It's just a good way of dealing with some common threats. And again, like Harvest Leech Seed is pretty annoying, so I do really like Trevenant. Moving forward, Vikavolt, Bug Buzz, Energy Ball, Flash Cannon, and Sticky Web are some coverage options I was looking at. Vikavolt is super slow, which is so sad, but this special attack stat is really high, and it has enough bulk to live hits, decent ability in Levitate, where it can definitely get off some damage. Also has access to Volt Switch, and Sticky Web is a good option for if things like can't take a hit and need to switch out, that you can go for a move that can benefit the rest of your team. Other options: Air Slash. Agility might be useful. I don't know exactly what agility hits, but that is a way of making Vikavolt even faster. Terra Blast could be also another option to hit types that Vikavolt struggles with. Off the top of my head, I'm probably thinking Steel, so most likely Terra Fire or Terra Ground. Thunderbolt, obviously a good coverage option. And then the final few coverage options, Thunder Wave, Volt Switch, and Charge Beam, are the few that I was looking at, but I do really like this mon. It is super slow. I would probably see this in the lower tiers. It does have access to heavy duty boots now, which is kind of nice, and it does like hit super hard, but it is really slow. So it will be interesting to see where this thing is placed. And in terms of draft, I could see it being really powerful, but I don't know exactly how strong it is. It's probably like in a weird lower tier area, but it's definitely not weak like whatsoever. So this is very a difficult mon to assess, but I do really like Vikavolt. Moving forward, Rabombi is back. Obviously, this is probably one of the best Sticky Web users, I'd say, of like all time, just because of how fast it is. Sticky Web, Moonblast, Bug Buzz. I was also looking at some potentially Quiver Dance sets can be really powerful for Rabombi. Also, Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Psychic, and Sword Power. Again, Sword Power, Quiver Dance could actually be quite powerful too. Yeah, really fast stat, decent special attack stat, and again, like Sticky Webs, this mon is just amazing for Sticky Web. Also gets access to U-turn, which is really good because of how fast it is, so you can set up sticky webs and then U-turn out, and then if your opponent ever tries to defog them away, you can always set them back up. Does get access to Trick, Energy Ball as coverage, and does get access to Light Screen, so it can be a very good support mon, and it's really fast. So I do really like Ribombee for that in terms of draft. In terms of Showdown usage, most likely RU, UU, definitely not going to be any higher than that. But really good sticky web user, basically. Outside of being a sticky web user, can have some potential threatening stuff of Quiver Dancing, but besides that, Ribombee is going to be basically sticking to either sticky web or Quiver Dance, basically. So moving forward, we have Big Mo-O. This one is actually huge for the format. I definitely think this thing's jumping right up to OU. Bulletproof, soundproof, overcoat, all these could be uses, could make good uses. This is also a really good mon for draft because the coverage is insane. Force Sphere, Body Press, obviously has really high defense. You can run Body Press now. Really powerful. I've even seen some people running Terra Boom Burst, like Terra Normal Boom Burst does crazy amounts of damage. You can even run bulk up sets. Other options, Clanging Scales, obviously really good special dragon type move. But you can also run Draco Meteor if you want to run like some mixed stuff. But Draco Meteor is only slightly stronger than Clangorous Scales, so maybe you just keep Clangorous Scales. But of course, Clangorous Soul is a really good move. Like, this is like a really powerful move for a pseudo to have. But other options, Close Combat. Sorry, I think I skipped. Oh, there's so many sets that I was looking at for Como. I mean, look at this coverage though. Earthquake, Fire Punch, Flash Cannon as a way of hitting special for fairy types, and then Flamethrower, also just insane coverage. Ice Punch, Iron Head. Iron Head is a steel type move to hit fairy types. You even have Poison Jab to hit other fairy types. Rock Slide. Belly Drum is also another set, so you could run Belly Drum. Drain Punch is also pretty strong. I've seen that one before. Roar, Stealth Rock, so it can also set up Stealth Rocks, and it does get access to Scale Shot, so you could run like some loaded dice Scale Shot. And Scale Shot is pretty good on this because it has like low speed and it could really appreciate. This is like very close to Baxcalibur speed, like I think Bax is 87. So Scale Shot plus 1 speed can actually be really powerful for Como to help it sweep, especially if you pair it with Swords Dance. Does get access to Taunt, Thunder Punch, and now has Vacuum Wave, which is a good priority move for special attacking Como. So I do think this thing is actually going to be quite powerful. I think it will take time for people to understand that Como is a giant threat, but I do think this thing will be OU, and I think in terms of draft, it will be definitely on the higher end. So, oh, bug in my face. Moving forward, we have Cramorant. I mean, you know, this ability is like so weird. I mean, Cramorant is the PU monster for sure. Gulp Missile, after you surf or dive, the attacker takes 1/4 HP and -1 defense or paralysis. I don't know if this thing got buffed, but I don't remember the -1 defense or paralysis, so that can be pretty strong. It does make you kind of want to prefer dive though over surf, right? But Cramorant does get access to Defog, Hurricane, Surf, and Roost, and the stats are pretty bad, not gonna lie, but it can make for somewhat of a decent special defensive usage, and then you can run Defog. I think this is just a worse Swanna though. No, actually I think this is better than Swanna because I think the ability is slightly better. But other coverage options, Ice Beam, Tailwind, Blizzard, and Hydro Pump are basically the only moves that this thing learns. So again, lower tier mon, but it is cool to see back, and I do like this ability. I think it's cool, but I just think it's not strong enough. In terms of draft, definitely lower tier. So next up is Morpeko, very interesting ability. Hunger Switch, I always really like this mon, but I don't think it's, I mean, it's pretty decently powerful considering that Aura Wheel is 110 and switches between electric and dark and guarantees you a +1 speed boost, which Morpeko really likes because it's barely at that like under 100 mark, so it can actually do a lot of damage. Electric Dark is actually really good offensively too. Coverage options include Brick Break, Crunch, Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Knockoff. So Knockoff is also really good for Morpeko. You also have Switch Initiative and Parting Shot. Again, coverage in Psychic Fangs. Rapid Spinner too. I didn't even realize this thing was a Rapid Spinner, but it can be useful in that situation too. But I think you most likely are going to want to run this thing offensively. Seed Bomb, Stomping Tantrum, more coverage. Super Fang is a really good utility move in case you can't hit something that switches in. Taunt, really good taunt lead options. Volt Switch, another good Switch Initiative option. I said the Parting Shot before because you obviously want Parting Shot for those matchups when your opponent has a ground type, but then Thunder Wave and Wild Charge are the other moves that Morpeko can run. And I honestly think this thing is better than most people think, but I think it's probably like NU, at least NU RU. It can be really powerful, but it doesn't have any setup moves, which is like the main thing that it lacks. But yeah, it can definitely pack a punch for sure. And the increasing speed, you know, that's the only problem is you don't have any way of increasing your attack, but the increasing speed is actually really beneficial. So yeah, that is Morpeko. Moving forward, I'm going to be talking about the transfer mons that are coming. So all these are transfer only from, I believe, Pokemon Home. So Jirachi is back with Ring Grace, which is disgusting. I mean, this is just like standard Jirachi stuff. Like, it learns a bajillion moves: Aura Sphere, Calm Mind, Doom Desire, Drain Punch. Terra Blast also could be a really cool option for Jirachi. You could make it even bulkier by changing it into like a water type or something like that. Stealth Rock, also really good. Hazard Center also gets U-Turn, and Iron Head flinches with Serene Grace. Plus Thunder Wave can be really annoying, but also does get Steel Beam, which Baton Pass user can be really, really powerful for draft. I think this thing will probably shoot up to OU too. And then in terms of draft, I think it's definitely on the higher end. But yeah, it has, I mean, base 100 stats, and the typing is pretty damn strong, and the coverage is actually insane. I think the only thing that I think it lost was Ice Beam. Maybe it never had Ice Beam, but I thought it did in the past. But yeah, it doesn't have Ice Beam bound, so it loses, what is it called? Like Bolt Beam, which it was pretty powerful in the past for, but you can still run some like cool Calm Mind sets. And this thing can be really dangerous because of the amount of coverage it has, so definitely really, really powerful mon. Moving forward, oh, we get to talk about these guys. Okay, so if you guys haven't been on the ladder at all, you know Torterra is actually the GOAT right now. Loaded Dice, Shell Smash. So Torterra got access to Shell Smash. Loaded Dice obviously supports Bullet Seed to always hit 4 to 5 times, as well as it works really well with Rock Blast, which Torterra struggles with like flying types with this set. Also got access to Headlong Lunge, a even stronger ground type move. And they buff the shit out of Torterra. After a Shell Smash, if you just run 252 speed, 211 becomes 422, and I believe that outspeeds max speed Dragapult. I was looking at the other day, and I was like, damn, this thing is super fast. Yeah, 421. So you can basically run Adamant Torterra and still outspeed max speed Dragapult, which is actually insane. So yeah, I really love Torterra this season. I think it will most likely be in UU. I don't know if it jumps all the way to OU because it's definitely reliant. I don't know. It's definitely stuck with either being like body press like type shenanigans being defensive, or it's just gonna always be like a Shell Smasher. So maybe RU UU. I would be absolutely shocked if it kept staying in OU because it really relies on having a Roar Veil up to actually get a setup off. But who knows? I'd be really surprised by that. But yeah, Torterra is the GOAT now. Really good mon. In terms of draft, I think it's a little bit limiting of like, that, it's going to have Shell Smash. So it's a little bit limiting in that factor. But again, like Shell Smash Torterra, you come in, if you come in on the right thing, you set up a Shell Smash, it could be GG over right then and there. So yeah, it also gets access to Stealth Rock, which is really good for hazard setting, and then good coverage options in Crunch, Iron Head, and Superpower. Especially with Terra type, you could Terra Ground or Terra Rock is really powerful to boost Rock Blast, but you could also become a bulkier option to try to guarantee your Shell Smash. So yeah, I really love Torterra this gen. Next up, Infernape's back. Infernape was a monster in the past, but here it is again. Iron Fist, obviously the better ability. Coverage options, it can be physical or special, Aura Sphere, Close Combat, Drain Punch, Earthquake, Flare Blitz, Grass Knot, Gunk Shock, Knockoff now, which is really, really good. Has Knockoff always been 65? That's crazy. I thought it was 60, but 65 is pretty powerful, especially timesing 2, 130 base. Jesus. Oh, it's only 1.5. Oh, wow. I thought it was always 2. Wow, I must be tripping sack. Okay. Infernape does get access to Mach Punch, which works well with Iron Fist. Nasty Plot also is really good for the special attacking sets because you can run Nasty Plot into Overheat and do tons of damage. Also, this thing does get Stealth Rocks for hazards. Stone Edge as a coverage option does get Swords Dance, and it's decently fast too, so you can Swords Dance sweep. Also has access to Taunt and the punches except for Ice Punch, but Taunt is really good for Taunt leads too. U-Turn also really good switch initiative. Will-O-Wisp as another way of burning things if you're faster. and then Thunder Punch, then Headbutt, just more coverage, which, yeah, really like Infernape. I don't know if it'll be OU. I think it might be OU just because it's going to be really powerful, but if not, it's definitely UU. In terms of draft, I don't think it's going to be like on the very high end of red tier, but it's definitely really powerful, and it can sweep teams because it's very fast and can do a lot of damage, and mixed attacking sets can really go on a roll. Next up is Empoleon. Empoleon actually got a ability change from Defiant to competitive, so it actually works really well with its special attack now. Roost, Air Slash, Aqua Jet were some options that I looked at now. It does have Roost now, which is pretty powerful for being like a special defensive wall. But moving forward, it does have access to Flash Cannon. Flip Turn is really cool too, because now things that basically wall you can always flip turn out. Grass Knot as a coverage option, and then Ice Beam. Other coverage options, knock off Steel Beam now, because if you do get a competitive boost, you're going to be doing tons of damage. Yawn has a way of statusing, and then Stealth Rock has a way of setting up hazards. It does not have like Thunder Wave anymore, which I think it used to get in the past, which is a little bit disappointing. But yeah, Empoleon with Flip Turn can be pretty powerful as a way of just like walling something and then getting slow switch initiative into more powerful things. Okay, so this is probably the best part of the video. So Fion and Manaphy actually got a better Calm Mind, which is really dope. So I saw that, I was like, when I was going through all these mods, I had never seen this move. I was like, what is this move? And I was like, oh, Curse user status and then raises special attack and special defense. So I was like, oh, this is just a way better Calm Mind. So Fion is just like a mini Manaphy. It has worse stats, obviously, but it can basically run the same thing because of Take Heart. So whatever, I think Manaphy will definitely be OU. But this Tank Heart set actually works great for Fion too. It makes it a lot more viable. Because, yeah, this thing has Take Heart, Flip Turn, Knock Off, and Ice Beam. Does get access to Acid Armor too, so you can set up like both of your defenses and try to stall out your opponent and do lots of damage. You can run like the, you know, rest sets too, like Rest, Rain Dance, blah blah blah, or just have like a Drizzle user plus this and run like Rest, and then go for your Acid Armor, Take Heart sets. Is really powerful. Other coverage options, Dazzling Gleam, Grass Knot. Yeah, and as I said before, like Rest, Rain Dance, Scald also gets access to Haze. So yeah, Fion is actually a lot better now. I don't think it was terrible in the past, but like, you know, it's just going to be a lot worse Manaphy. I think it's probably going to be like NU, RU, but that might be an overstatement because these stats aren't great, but water typing is pretty good. And then of course Manaphy is back with a base 100. It's just Fion, but like on crack, because it does get access to Tail Glow now. And again, I was thinking the same idea, Acid Armor, Take Heart, as a way of curing your statuses, which is actually really funny because like when I was looking into this, I think I just saw the other day like Lord Envy YouTuber actually used Take Heart Manaphy and it worked well for him. So yeah, I think this move will definitely have a lot of usage. I definitely think Manaphy will most likely be an OU just because of how powerful Tail Glow is. But yeah, Manaphy is basically the same thing as Fion, except it gets Tail Glow, does get access to Psychic, and I think U-Turn? I don't think this guy got U-Turn. Oh no, he did. So U-Turn and Flip Turn, I don't think, I'm pretty sure they're the exact same, right? Except, does this, okay, Fion doesn't get Psychic, so that's the other thing. But besides that, they're basically the same thing, and Manaphy's a lot better because it has Tail Glow. But yeah, Manaphy's super powerful. Definitely think it'll be OU and on the higher end of draft formats. Next up, we have Shaman. I never really thought Shaman was too powerful in the past, but yeah, base 100's really powerful. Seed Flare, Earth Power, Air Slash, Dazzling Gleam, really good coverage. Giga Drained, Healing Wish, Leech Seed, and Psychic, just some other options. Only ability is Natural Cure, which is not terrible, but not great. Synthesis, Terra Blast could be good for hitting whatever moves that you're struggling with, and then Baton Pass and then Tailwind is really powerful too. So Shaman is like probably gonna be sticking around in like UU tiers. It hasn't always been that great, but maybe Terra Blast, like changing your type, might push it further. But yeah, I am curious to see how much a Seed Flare like Terra Grass will do. But 40% chance to drop target Spadef by 2 is crazy for Seed Flare. So that is a really powerful move, but we'll yet to see if Shaman is that great. Most likely RU, and then UU, and then in draft somewhere in the center for sure. And then the final Pokemon, which I don't like to really go over Ubers, but Darkrai is back. I assume Darkrai is like decent, but like 50% accuracy Dark Void is kind of ass. Like Hypnosis has 60%. I feel like this should be like at least like, you know, 60. Like come on now. But Darkrai does have like Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, and Psyshock now apparently is new. So I don't know what the fuck Darkrai did in the past, but it's back now. So But without further ado, that is it for today. We just got done going through all the mons. I hope this was very insightful, useful for people to see what is coming back. And hopefully pretty entertaining, maybe gives you some ideas to make some teams or whatnot. Hopefully we'll have some Pokemon Showdown content in the future, but I am like super crammed with school and stuff right now, as well as finishing up the PBO stuff, which make sure that you check out. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and check out for more on this channel. Loho Plays, we're back at it again. Peace!